Hey, welcome back. Thanks for everyone's support. So this is part 2 of the 57 Chevy build on the Tahoe frame. We previously did the build where we showed taking the body off of the Chevy, the body off the Tahoe, and nesting the body of the 57 down on the Tahoe. That video is in part 1. So part 2, we're just really brief. We're just trying to get all of our parts together, get all the things together. We're going to explain what we did, what work we've done on the frame, and some of the wiring stuff that we're going through. So a little bit of information. We've been doing some other jobs in the shop. We've had some brakes and gears and lockers and front end work on my daughter's new truck. But for now, we haven't done a lot on the 57, but we're going to put some things together. We have a few questions and things we want you to help us answer, and we'll go from there.
So here on the 5.3, there are 3 different exhaust ports that come off of the manifold, 2 on the passenger side and 1 on the driver's side that need to be plugged. There's also, excuse me, a 4th one up on the intake manifold where it went in. They've got to plug 2. I don't know quite how I'm going to do that one. But we're making some plates. So we made a template out of a piece of cardboard, and we're making some plates. And just got three plates bolted together here, and we're working them over on the 2x72 to make them the right shape. Kind of scary to grind and film, but it's working. So just been polishing them up, trying to get them lined out. That's actually 3 different plates bolted together, and just made them the shape that we need to cover it. Another favorite tool, 2x72 grinder from AmeriBrade. Pretty phenomenal tool. This thing will hog some steel and polish stuff up. So just a tool that I love. So we have the 3 ports on the exhaust manifold that we're covering up. There's one. I'm going to put a little RTV on that. Number 2 is down here. I got to put some bolts in there. Number 3 is right there. So we'll cover up those ports. That's going to save us $1,000 on a set of headers. And I got the factory exhaust with the heat shields. I'm not going to be burning my plug wires and everything else. So we're going to go for that for now. We got some original hardware there we're going to put on and give it a little tighten and go from there. So we got some of the original hardware on there, some of the bolts. We're just going to let that set gently, let it dry for a little bit like it is, and then we'll come back and torque it a little bit later. We're just going to do the same thing on this side. Just going to get a little RTV on our plate and get it torqued down on there. Not torqued, but just hand snugged, and then we'll torque it later after it dried a little bit. I can't remember how long. I think it was an hour or 20 minutes or something. You're supposed to let it sit up and then come back and tighten it up after you lightly touch it. All right. Get it started. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. They're not all 3 the same. I got to make a new template and a new plate. Well, so much for that idea. So this piece came off of here. I think that's a pretty good piece or a pretty good template, one of the 2. I'm going to cut that off of there, and then I'm going to see if I can weld that hole shut or use that as a template. I don't know which one would be easier, but I'm going to play with it. I decided to use the old piece for a template. I cut it off of that exhaust tube. So I bolted that other manifold piece to the piece of steel that I used. I just used it as a template and just went and ground it out. Now we'll put a little RTV on it and that should be ready to fit. I'm not even going to trial fit it. I'm going to go for it. I think we got it. So this is a piece that we kind of assumed was going to be the same as the others, and it wasn't. It's a little bit bigger port, and the distance between the screws was a little bit further. I'm kind of gunky, so we're going slow left-handed backwards. We're going to just dump that glove. Okay, did anybody catch that? I put the template on there, not my new piece. So here's my new piece sitting here clean and dry, and I ended up putting the template back on there, or the old piece. So bad on me. We'll try that again. Somebody should have caught me and stopped me before I went that far and got it done. That's what you get when you're trying to film, I guess. Okay, some update on the progress of the frame. We have, we and my little angel helper, I guess, have, well, I had some help. I had a nephew come on over helping me. Anyway, we, together, wire brushed, wax and grease removed, and repainted the entire frame. So I think it looks pretty good. We got all the blocks mounted on, painted. We got our drive lines sanded down, shined up. Rear differential, used a needle gun on that, and I had never used the needle gun before, but I think we got a pretty good looking outcome on the frame. The products I used on the frame, I'll show you. Now, if you remember back, I did leave one of the three brackets, or one of the two brackets I was supposed to. There's the trimmed off bracket for the brake. There was supposed to be another one right here, but I got slice happy and chopped it off, so I'll have to weld a new bracket on there. But I did leave that one. But the product I used to clean this up with, I just used a lot of wax and grease remover. But then I ended up using this product, which is a Duplicolor rust barrier. Comes in an aerosol and in a can, and I did a lot of rolling, so I didn't have to do a lot of masking. So I just left it as it was and went to work and rolled it on, brushed it on, and I feel like it turned out really nice. Hopefully it holds up. Okay, a little progress on the 57. We've been working on the dash. We've pulled everything out, including the wiper motor and all the electrical. Everything is out because we're going back in with a whole new harness. I did leave my wire that goes up to my dome light right here, which I will use to fish the new wire back up to the existing dome light at the back of the cab. And there's also a speaker wire over there that goes up to that old speaker, one single wire. Interesting, it's grounded on the metal, everything's grounded on the metal. Even the wiper motor only had one wire. So a little more information on the 57. We got the firewall cleaned off. I've drilled a new hole for my loom to go through. I have a new wiring harness for the 5.3. There will be actually two harnesses, one for the engine and chassis and a new harness for the interior, which will be all of the functions for the interior of the cab, including brake lights, tail lights, headlights, wipers, dome lights, AC, things like that. But we've got the cab all stripped out. But I want to show you what we took out of the Tahoe and what's going back in. So here's my
3 tables. This is the pile of goo that came out of the Tahoe. It went to everything. You know, it knows if your window wiper is low in the rear, but there was a pile of stuff that came out of there, a rat's nest. Stuff to the ABS, you know, this is a computer. Everything that the Tahoe had that we took out. This is what's gonna be replacing it as far as the engine harness. This is a PSI standalone harness for the 5.3. Very well put together, very clean. So it's got the, first of all, new computer that's gonna be flashed for just the engine and the 5.3. We have our computer connections. I have a fuse block that goes to the ignition, and there is there will be an OBD connector that'll have up underneath the dash. This bundle of wires goes to the gauges that will go up under the dash. I'm going to be using a digital Dakota digital dash. I've wired all this on the engine to make sure everything works. This is all of the fuel injectors, the NOx sensors, the O2 sensors, and everything that's on the engine. And I wired it up and everything snapped in and fit with a good GM. All of the GM plugs just snapped right in, all brand new stuff from PSI. Pretty impressed with it. They're working with me. Fuse block mount. This is also our new American Auto wire. This is the kit we're using. It's a 55 to 59. There's the number. This is a pretty cool kit. I'm a little overwhelmed, but let's just show it to you so you can get an idea. This kit has a lot of stuff. So new battery terminals and cables. It has the ignition system. So this is the interior cab and all of the ignition stuff. And I haven't gone through all this. There's multiple packets. There's an engine kit, courtesy light kit. There's a bunch of different kits. Now these plug in, but not everywhere. There's a lot of bare ends. This is the instrument cluster. And I don't know if I'll be using that one because of my PSI has that on there, but we'll see. Got new light switches. Everything else is dimmer switches, headlights, taillights, everything we need to put this back together. A little better, a little cleaner than that pile of stuff that I had over there. And so, but this is no small bundle of wires. This has got me a little overwhelmed. And I'm gonna have to do it one wire at a time. All right, just a few things that I found in the truck. It's a plastic cover, box of matches. I thought it was kind of cool. It's old match box that was in there with a plastic cover from someplace. A pencil that was quite well used, a little more frugal day. Interesting, I found some 60s and 70s pennies, then that's when the truck originally lived, then at up to 74, even 83. Then it was out of commission for a long time. Then I found some more pennies that I probably put in there in the 90s. When I got the truck, these are 93, 94 pennies, kind of cool. But the thing I wanted to show you was the ignition switch. So this is the American wire ignition switch. This is the old ignition switch. The instructions in the American Auto wire was to put your key in, put a pin in this hole, pull the tumbler out. I pulled the tumbler out of the old ignition and it came out. And on the old ignition, there's just two positions, off and on. And then you had to push the starter pedal on the floor, which physically engaged the starter. So we had an off and on position on this one. I pulled the tumbler out, snapped it into the new American Auto wire. It popped in there. Now I have accessory, off, run position, and start. So start, and then, so it has all the positions. With my original old GM key, that's a 1957, it's worn completely off. You can't even see the numbers on it, or the letters. But I'll be able to use my original key. I just thought that was kind of cool. And it went right into the new American Auto wire harness. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with 57's ignition, but on the 57, there's a pedal that comes through the floorboard
people that understand the 57. So see that bolt right there? We're on the old 57 frame. That goes through to a pedal that comes out here right next to the accelerator, right? There's your clutch and brake mechanisms over there. But this is right where the floorboard was. And when you pushed on this pedal, look what physically went on here. So instead of having a solenoid and like a relay that goes up to your starter, to your ignition switch, you turn the power on. Then when you stepped on this mechanism, it went forward and physically engaged the power inside the starter so it could then kick on. So when you're on a hill, you had to have 1 foot on the starter pedal, 1 on the throttle, 1 on the brake, and 1 on the clutch. A little tricky. And when you got crazy legs, that doesn't work so well. So, but pretty cool system. Not a lot of people have seen that other. And then also on the floor over there, of course, is the dimmer switch. So you had 5 buttons on the floor of this truck. But pretty interesting how it works. Pretty simple and cool. So I guess our next step now is to painfully pull the cab back off. Get rid of all the holes in the firewall that I do not need. Get the interior, probably pull out the glass, out of the doors, out of the cab. The cab glass, that's a good window. It was new in 90-something, 5. It's not new anymore, but no cracks in it. I don't know if I can get it out of there. I was planning on the time to paint the truck this original tan, and that's still up for grabs. I'm gonna want some recommendations. This is the original color. I think they called it Bombay Ivory or sand. I can't remember. But there was one of the original 57 colors. That was the original color. And I had jammed around the windows and stuff and around the doors to get ready for do that. And I had to put the window in so I could drive it home. So I jammed around the doors and stuff from the shop I was working in at school and got ready, but I never finished it. So now the paint that was pretty is now 20 years old. So I'm gonna have to pull the window out again, start over on the cab. But I need some suggestions on a color. I need some votes. Put it in your comments what you think for a color. There's a lot. I like some of the old 57 colors, and I also like a lot of the new colors that are out there. But I also have a question over here. I pretty much made up my mind, but I want to talk. With this step side, that's not, there's different, and if somebody has some information on this too, give me some. But I've looked into it. The 57 had different beds. There were 4 different beds. There was a 6.5 foot bed, a 7.5 foot bed, like an 8 foot bed, and a 9 foot bed that went up on the 1-tons. But this fender well is off of the 7.5 foot bed, which doesn't fit this 6.5 foot bed. It does fit it. It's the same length and everything else, but the spare tire, there is not room in that hole for a spare tire. A 30-inch tire hits the cab. So they must have had further, well, there is, I've seen them. There's a longer cutout that goes almost over a quarter of the tire, but it goes up higher. I was gonna go with the original step side fender that's cut out, but now I'm thinking pretty well, made up my mind that I am going to go to a smooth fender because we have a couple options. I mean, I like the look of the old fender on the old tire on the outside, but here on the Tahoe, we have the roll-up tire mount. It's gonna bring the tire up into the frame. So I really don't need that over there. I think it would look pretty classy without it. Give me your opinions. But right now, I think we're gonna go back to the cab, pull out all the glass, get everything off, and start getting ready for paint. I was gonna wire everything up and get it running first, but that was a little overwhelming. I don't wanna unwire everything, all of this stuff. I did wire up the engine harness to make sure everything fit, but I think our next step is to finish the mechanical things first. Joffer is doing another YouTuber that's doing a 57. He's got a few videos out there. His father and him are working together, and he's cranking along. They're using the Tahoe computer and stuff, and they're moving along, and they mounted their computer and things. But my computer's going to be inside. But the things I have to do next, order of operations, are going to be the new brake booster, which is going to go in here, which has been ordered. And then I also have the vintage air, and I got to drill the holes through the firewall on this side. I have ordered a new aluminum radiator from Champion Cooling. Same thing I think that Joffer's dad was mentioning in his video that they're going to be putting in.
I had to move the inlet over 1.5 inches. And I don't know how they're planning on doing it, but my inlet was coming in to this steering box, the idler arm. So my radiator was coming in and bumping it right here, and I didn't like that. So I called Champion Cooling, and they're moving my inlet over 2 inches in the fabrication to get it off of this idler arm. So so I'll be able to keep my radiator down to the stock position, but they'll move that over and I'll be able to wiggle my line out and get up to the radiator. So the mechanical things again, the vintage air holds through the firewall, the brakes, the steering column is on the way. I'm using an I Did It steering column. It's on its way, the radiator's on its way. So I had to get through those mechanical things next. And once I get those in, which will require cutting and welding and holes, then I'll pull it all apart and we'll get the cab and the fender separated and we will paint the cab. Once I get the cab painted, then on from there. I am also considering, in my shop here, I have this corner over here. Right now it has an old wagon stored in it. But it's a wagon I use for wagon trains. I refurbished it and it's fun and amazing little experience in our life. Maybe I'll share that video someday. But over here I have a piece of property in my shop that is 19 or 17 feet wide by 24 long that I could make a booth that went in this corner that I could still use it to store my wagon in or whatever afterwards, but I want to put up a wall that comes along this corner and make me a paint booth, or purchase one of those blow-up paint booths. I have an eye on some freezer panels. They're aluminum or metal faced outside and inside freezer panels that are 11 foot high, which would fit here in my area, that would come out and come over and make me it's metal on the outside, metal on the inside, be good reflective surfaces. Permanent booth versus a blow-up booth. There's some more comments. You could help me make that decision. I don't mind input. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. This is kind of where we are today on the 57 project. Haven't got a lot done. I've done, if you need friends, buy a lift. But I love my friends, so I'm not complaining. I have some good neighbors. I just did, with him, we did lockers on a Toyota and re-geared it. And then also we did brakes this morning and front control arms on my daughter's little truck. Hopefully we'll show you that. It's her first time working on cars and she's excited about it. But so the 57 kind of got set aside while we did a few neighborly projects, and but we'll get back to it. Thanks for watching. Hope that kind of feeds you up on what we're doing, get you caught up. We are working on some other videos, trying to get all this together. We're not just going to produce content. We're going to show you what we're doing on the build, on the project. We do have a few other things that we're going to show you, some other things that we create and build and do and around here. We'll get those videos out too, but we're really working on trying to get the truck ready. So thanks for watching, and look for part 3. It will be coming out hopefully in the next couple weeks. So appreciate your support. We've had a lot of followers and subscribers. It's been awesome. I didn't think that anybody'd be interested in our content, but looks like there's some interest out there. Appreciate the watching. Good day.